Hey, y'all.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome back to the Oddcast.
Podcast.
Um,
Off the record.
Yeah, that's it. I'm Blackie.
I'm Erica.
You can tell we've been off for a couple weeks, kind of forgot what was going on. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us. I know we were off a couple weeks and kind of needed to do some things for ourselves, but we're back. And today's topic, we're going to kind of talk about depopulation. It's not to scare anybody, but depopulation is going on. And what that means is that our population isn't decreasing year to year. It's actually getting higher and higher year to year, but they're saying that by the year 2080 or something like that, that we're going to hit our peak and population is going to start decreasing. What's really going on is the birth rate is decreasing monthly. Well, yearly. We'll say yearly. We'll go with years. But the population right now in the world is around roughly over 8 billion in the world. The growth rate, we'll go with 2015. In 2015 was 1.25%. So every year that's, was 1.25. And then now in 2025, our growth rate, or even 2024, our growth rate is at 0.85%. So we are on the decline as far as month or year to year. Still getting the big numbers, but less people are being born. That's kind of what we wanted to talk about today, the things that influence that. There's tons of things. We're going to touch on quite a few of them. We're not going to go super in depth. Again, that's why we're here, is to get your ears and brain into it, so you'll look it up and kind of do some studying for yourself and find out some things like we do. Okay, I guess we'll start with what are some of the things causing low birth rates. I think one of the biggest things right now is low infertility. People just aren't as fertile as they used to be, both men and women. And the decrease in men is substantial. And there's lots of causes of that. I believe that, everything from what we're eating to, what we're drinking, to the things that we're inhaling in our jobs, whatever. Is this done by design? I believe a lot of it is done by design. What can we do about it? Pretty much the only thing you can do about it is watching. I think William said it best on our last podcast 2 weeks ago, is exercise and eat well. That's the best way to take care of yourself. We don't live forever, and we're not going to. Don't want to. But
an extreme part of that, when he said exercise, the use of anabolic steroids has led to an increase in infertility. And of course, that would be more common with longer use. But for steroids, some of the setbacks, or the irony, if you want to say, men taking anabolic steroids to become a stronger looking, a stronger physique, when actually it goes against man's purpose, But some of the setbacks of anabolic steroids, it can lead to decreased testicle size, erectile dysfunction, and it can lower the sperm count. So while they intend to look like a manlier man, it goes against, some of the main functions of a man. But
yeah, that was something I wanted to do when I was younger, because I was always the littlest guy. And I have some friends in the football team, and back then nobody tested for it. So they were doing steroids and becoming monsters, but they were also acting loony. So I chose not to, because I was already pretty loony. So.
Yeah, obviously steroids can lead to aggressive behavior, but we're just sticking to the decrease in population for our point this evening.
There's been quite a few countries that are actually decreasing in their population in general. I know Japan is decreasing in population. They're even talking about it. It's becoming a big problem. China, which it is what it is, they're becoming less. They came out with a rule, I forget how many years ago, where they only allowed one child. and I think that hurt them. Bulgaria, Italy's another country. They're all declining, and they're declining their natural population. But what's starting to happen is you're starting to get an influx of immigrants coming in from other countries. So that's another podcast we'll talk about sometime. But right now we're not gonna hit that. The U.S. we know is declining as a population as far as normal American population, but that doesn't do with our depopulation. Anyway, if anybody's ever read the Great Reset or heard of the Great Reset, it was the WHO, or not WHO, the World Economic Forum has meetings, and they were discussing, how to make a world where everything is better. Maybe not for you, but for the elites. And one of them was that they discussed would be the ability to eliminate the amount of people, to control the amount of people in the world. And this was brought on great by the, if anybody remembers, and in fact, my buddy Kenny Shivers brought it up, the Georgia Guidestones. They had numbers on there, and I'll read that to you real quick if I can find my paper. On the Georgia Guidestones, it says one of the things was maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. So that was keeping numbers very low compared to where they are now. Now, will that happen? I don't know if you can get to 500 million without mass extinction or, hundreds and hundreds of years from now. But, we know with things like COVID-19, swine flu, bird flu, all these things they keep bringing up that to me are all man-made, that it's possibly a way to eliminate us, to eliminate the old, to eliminate the weak, to eliminate certain groups of people, the AIDS epidemic. We know that the government isn't the best thing in the world, that's for sure. They don't really have our best interests in mind. They take care of themselves, and that's it. I had another friend of mine write in one of my Facebook posts, "Are we lab rats?" And I think for the most part we are lab rats. I think our government has no problem trying different things on us, medications. We've learned from the C-19 that the vaccination wasn't good for anybody, that you could still get it, that it's causing clots. As much as the media is going to throw that out, that that's not a problem, it is a problem. Young people are dying. Young athletic people are dying from these heart attacks, and it's just, it needs to be looked into more. We have a Health and Human Services man, Robert Kennedy Jr. now, that seems to be, hitting some of those spots, especially in the food industry. That's something else we'll hit on is things that we're putting in our bodies that they're letting us put in our bodies that should never be in our bodies. Yes, exactly. And that's one of the causes in the depopulation is that the older generations are dying. We're dying off and we're not increasing the population more. That's the infertility. And that's, when they can't control that, they start a war or they create a disease to wipe out a large amount of people. Now, you don't have to believe me on this. I'm just going by what I see and what I read and what I research. There's going to be people that are going to argue this, and that's fine. That's what this is all about. But I feel it's going on. I feel that it's, we're in a place that we're not looking out for ourselves, is the best way to say that. We're not paying attention to what we're eating. We're not paying attention to what's going into our food. We're not looking at what happens if you eat bread-free over time, what could happen to your body. And it's just sad, but, we've all done it. I'm not saying we're the greatest. We're just learning these things too over the past few years. And what we want to do is bring it to more people's attention and get people to start paying attention. I know one of the things that I brought up to her, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago, was Dawn dish soap. Everybody thinks of washing their dishes with Dawn dish soap. Cleaning oil off of cute little baby ducks and birds that get oil on. Well, if you read what's in Dawn dish soap, there ain't nothing good in Dawn dish soap for you, not even to have on your hands. You know, we used to see the pictures of ladies or even men washing dishes with the yellow gloves on. And I think they did that for a reason. It wasn't so you got, saved your fingernails or anything. It's because of what was in the dish soap that could harm you. I worked in the automotive sealant manufacturing industry for a long time. I dealt with toluene, xylene, hexane, heptane, you name it. I dealt with it. We used to wash our hands with the stuff. It wasn't, when I was in that industry, it wasn't like a big thing. Now you have to wear, full body suits, fresh air masks. You're supposed to, at least, and all these different things. So nobody was really looking out for the best interest of anybody. I know, go ahead and you can chime in on what you're going to.
Speaking of that, the skin is the body's biggest organ, and one area of exposure would be in your clothing, and certain fabrics are better than others for your skin. But as far as most of my topics cover reproduction, and fabrics like polyester is one to look out for. And on the research, this is from a Discover magazine internet article. It says that polyester may also contain BPA, chemical compound that has been shown to potentially impact fertility. And there is higher prevalence of polycystic ovarian cysts in women with high amounts of BPA in their blood. And basically this is referring to like yoga pants or spandex type, workout clothing. So that's something to look out for that may cause danger to your body. It may affect your reproductive cycle and organs. So says it also contains phthalates, chemical commonly used in things like sports bras and other pieces of clothing. So again, we're talking about your skin as an organ, and it transferring through your body has a negative impact on fertility. And it says that through a study, it was found that higher concentrations of the chemical have been associated with decreased rates of pregnancy, increased incidences of miscarriage, and other pregnancy complications. So it's amazing how things we do not think about can affect our bodies.
Another thing that with clothing too, as I've been thinking about this, is the dyes used in coloring your clothes. I mean, I'm sure those aren't the healthiest in the world. It's not like you're using fruit juice to dye your clothes with. They're using inks. Inks have, there's reasons you don't chew on pens, and there's reasons you don't drink paint. They're poisonous. So, like she said, we talked about, well, we didn't talk about, I've talked about with her before, when you take a shower, everybody was worried about fluoride in water, and that's a big issue with this as well. You can drink all the purified water that you want, but when you hop in that shower, your body being the biggest organ soaks in just as much as you drink. So you're soaking in all that fluoride and whatever your city water has in it. You're bringing that into your body. I know that where we live, they just voted to oust fluoride in water, and it kind of causes a little uproar because there's people saying it's great for your teeth, and I personally don't believe that, simply because when I went to the dentist all the time and they fluoridated my teeth all the time, I tended to get more cavities back then. And I also believe that it takes the fluoride into your mouth, into your gums, and your body soaks it in even more. Just take care of your teeth, brush them with fluoride-free toothpaste, and it'll probably help your body more. So
I have a comment from Jean Hudson. Quaker Oats and Cheerios have a chemical to stop pregnancy. I would like to do an episode on more specific foods. We're just touching several different topics just a little bit this evening. But I'm so interested in foods and chemicals and food dyes and everything that, especially what we don't think of and what we should study on, things that affect our everyday lives. Obviously, we have to eat to survive. And I would like to do an episode on the dangers of foods. So, but here's another one. Jean said, margarine has chemicals that are used in paint,
Yep.
and one is one molecule away from plastic. I would be curious to cover those topics.
I've heard that about margarine, butter. That's the only way to go. And again, when you purchase something from the grocery store, look at the ingredients. We might have to go pick up 4 things, but we'll be there in an hour. Now, I'm exaggerating a little, but we'll be there because she's looking through the ingredients, and it might be something we've eaten forever, and she'll finally look at we're not eating that anymore. We're going to eat this. And yeah, we've taken all of this. We're just trying to make our lives a little bit longer, to that we're here. And if we can get a generation to really start caring about that, maybe this population, this decline they're talking about happening will never happen. Well, they'll still make it happen, but anyway.
So on foods, and again, I would like to go over this more, but it's true. I do spend a lot of time looking at an ingredients list, and to me, it's very interesting, and it can be very eye-opening because we don't realize the possibilities that are out there, and we don't realize until we read it the chemicals that we have been consuming, and also that there are options. I don't like to pick up the first thing that I see. I take the time and look around and see what the alternatives are, and I'll cover that in another episode.
It would be nice to be able to survive off of your own land, and we try to as much as possible. We don't have a lot of acreage, so we can't have a gigantic garden that we can, constantly survive on the food we're growing. So we have to buy from the store. And, sometimes her paying attention gets us a little healthier stuff from the store, buying from markets, farmers markets, which there's a lot of them out here in the country, to butchers, going to hometown butchers that raise their own meat. And you're buying something that's, farm raised and in a field, and they're eating their own stuff. So by the cows. And that's one of the things to hit on real quick is we have to understand that if we're buying things in the store that are from a farm, we have to understand that a lot of those farms inject them with, steroids or chemicals to keep them healthy, put stuff in their foods. All of that we take into our bodies. So if you're eating a piece of steak that, or chicken, I go with chicken because chicken seems to be the one they really go after. And because, you've seen where chickens grow up sometimes in these big, all together, half of them are dying, and they're shooting chemicals in them and make them bigger. And then we get the, chicken at the store, we cook it up and we eat it and we go, great chicken. But we're actually taking in, some chemicals that we probably shouldn't be putting in our body. And we need to start looking at that more when you go to the store. Try to buy from a market that learn to know the farmer and do it that way.
Jean posted, I don't know the name of the app, but they have an app that tells you if a food in the store is organic or not by scanning the barcode. I have an app, Yuka. I don't know if that one does tell organic. I just know it's alarming how bad most of the things are whenever I scan a barcode, but that could be it. But there are, again, options out there. So take a look at the apps out there to help you when shopping.
And Misty, yes, 100% agree with you on that. And that's what we do. We have a place that we deal with that we can't like them enough, really. I mean, they give us great meat, and sometimes we get free meat. So it's
So Misty's comment was to find a local farmer and place an order for your meat. I'm not going to name them, but we have a local one who is great. And I used to not like, cooking with meat. It kind of grossed me out. So I don't have a ton of experience. I have more over the past few years, but in my 20s, I was not about meat at all. And I was very basic with going to the store and buying ground beef and things like that. But the location where we go is very welcoming and very educating on the meats and cuts of meats and everything. So I encourage you to go out and see what's local and how they treat you.
Hit on genes there. Organic is great. Oh, let me see. Gene said organic is great, but can we really say organic when our rain picks up so many chemicals on the way down and I'm the only one that, no, you're not. I think of that every time.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about, we eat out of our yard. And I'm not saying we go out and chew our grass, but we do the dandelions. We there's other things that we pick up out of our yard, and we take care of those. We soak them. Well, she soaks them for a while, and then we'll heat them up, make teas out of them or whatever. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it rains on cows, it rains on chickens. What do we do? That's again, we're meant to fail. We're set up to fail when it comes to that. We can think we're doing the healthiest things for our bodies possible, but somebody's thought of that. And if, when you put crap into the air, we did our, weather manipulation and them dropping things into the clouds that we're not supposed to be putting in our bodies. And then they hit the ground and we put them in our bodies.
And Misty was talking about the meat again. A lot of times they will let you pick out what you're going to buy, and you get one animal processed instead of a mix of different meat. That brings up a whole nother topic that just disgusts me. And I think it's incredibly sad, the bigger companies out there and how they treat their animals. And it's disgusting. A lot of how they mistreat the animals, and you'll hear about chickens in teeny tiny areas. They're way overcrowded and the bodies don't form like they should. And they're just in a rush to what would be the word? They give the chicken steroids, and they're in a hurry to grow these quick so they can make more of a profit. And the whole thing's gross. But yes, where we go, they do have, they can tell you where the meat comes from and their requirements on certain classifications of meat. So it's much more comforting to buy food that way. So, and then Misty said, I can't stand to smell certain things processed. So it makes a lot easier for some people and more convenient. Plus it supports your local farms. I'm proud of you guys for doing that. I'm proud of anybody just reach out, and I hope it's a good experience for you, better than going to the main grocery stores.
Absolutely.
And also where we've gone, they encourage us a lot. Well, buy a half a cow or buy a quarter cow. And we haven't done that yet, but they offer where they'll kind of not set you up with someone else, but they'll coordinate it so that they know somebody is buying this half of the cow, and then they'll reserve that for you. So again, they're very accommodating. And then on food dyes, there's a lot that we're learning still. And there's a lot of changes coming around the corner, which I feel are going to have a good outcome in the long run, because we have really been picky over the last couple of years about ingredients and trying to avoid synthetic, and one of my sweet treats that I have, I like gummy bears sometimes. Okay. But I'm picky. I won't just buy gummy bears. I buy, is it Black Forest or something? They use actual natural ingredients for the colors of their gummy bears. So if it's one, if I pick up in the store and I see one that's red 40 or whatever, no, I'm not buying that. I don't care how good of a deal it looks like. I'm not buying it, because I know in the long run it's going to be better for me. Yeah, it's a sweet and that's not good, but they do make organic versions of that or cleaner ingredients. So that's what I like to go for.
I see Gene Hudson here again. Gene says, most of our food cannot go into some countries because of dyes and chemicals.
Yes.
One of the things in researching this is you run into a list of what European countries don't allow that they allow in the U.S. And you think to yourself, why does the U.S. allow these things? You know, a lot of people talk about, like, let's say Fruit Loops, something I used to eat as a kid. If you look at the colors here in the States, the Fruit Loops are all bright and red, orange, green, whatever, blue. In Europe, their Fruit Loops they use natural food. They use natural, maybe orange color. So from an orange or whatever, they're not throwing dyes in there.
Yeah.
And they taste different. A lot of people say that European food's bland, or some European food, but it's because they're not throwing the crap that we throw in our food into it. So why does our country do that? And maybe that goes back to, are we guinea pigs? Are we lab rats?
I can mention something about that I was fixing to, but
sorry.
No, it's fun. We're working together. Like, it's kind of an in and out, these things lead to other topics. But real quick, Jean said I make my own vanilla, which is awesome. Good for you. And I'm going to start making my own extracts because it might not be listed, because if it is trace amounts, they don't have to list that. It's very interesting to learn what they have to list and what they don't. And then Sharon, who is, she's from England.
Belgium.
Some natural food does come from bugs. So there we go. And I've also seen where, like McDonald's, they have McDonald's in other countries, and it's not the same menu as we would see for McDonald's. So
I know fast food's nice, and we still occasionally, rarely will get fast food. But fast food is the devil. I mean, it's got nothing good in it. Everything in it's pretty much something that's going to kill you in the long run. So the people that eat all the fast food, they're going to have health issues. The prime example was that the gentleman that ate McDonald's,
Michael Moore.
Super Size Me. No,
it wasn't Michael.
It wasn't
Moore.
Michael.
He covered a. I think he did a cover.
But that Super Size Me, that guy's dead now. Unfortunately, he's passed away. So, anyway,
Jean said, watch your labels all the time. Example, I bought canned veggies and it said veggie, salt, and water. Same veggie right next to it had over 10 ingredients, including bioengineered ingredients.
Yep, seen that too.
Okay, so what I'm covering on the food dyes, again, is kind of related to reproduction. It says it's an internet article from naturalwomanhood.org. It's the FDA banned synthetic food dye. And it says they're endocrine disruptors. What is an endocrine disruptor? They're chemicals that change how hormones work in the body. Usually this is because the chemical has a similar shape and structure to the hormones or enzymes our bodies make, and can therefore disrupt the receptors that hormones usually communicate with. Endocrine disruptors can also influence how hormones are made and broken down, and they can affect neurotransmitter receptors. A lot of this is, it says, plastic packaging that food and water are stored in, or via plastic additives like BPA, but now also the food itself or the additives used in processed foods. It says that rats treated with the highest amount of food dye were found to suffer testicular damage. And other decreased sperm count rates in adult human males may have something to do with eating unnaturally brightly colored food for the past few decades. And to read that in an article is just not surprising. I'm glad they spelled it out that way, because it's been in front of our face for so long. And it's kind of like we overcomplicate it. If we look at food dyes and learn more about that, then it makes sense. we wouldn't think of food normally. I don't think we wouldn't think of food as being the cause of all these issues. But now that they're breaking it down and providing information, it makes sense, and it kind of helps simplify some issues that we've been having. But another thing, it talks about blocks iodine in the thyroid. How many times have you heard of thyroid issues?
Seems like for a while, everybody we talked to had a thyroid issue.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, let's see. The other is a lot of dyes are derived from petroleum. Okay. That's kind of disgusting sounding, but it says that they can mimic and block the effects of estrogen. And like I was just talking about with hormones, how it changes hormones. How many people have you heard lately? Well, I had to have my hormones checked, you know, and it just, all these things kind of connect now, in my opinion. But then it says red number 3 has been shown to increase oxidative stress, a state that can lead to DNA damage and is associated with an increased risk of cancer development. And yellow number 5 is thought to block and mimic the effects of estrogen, potentially by binding to estrogen receptors. It can interfere with enzymes further up the production line and hormone synthesis, which ultimately puts limits on how much of that hormone the body can make. So it's messing with our natural production.
So again, ask yourself, are we lab rats?
Yes.
I mean, they've got to run tests on this stuff. You know, along with the estrogen, we also talk about low fertility in men that's going on right now, not just women. What I read was 1 in 6 people at some point will experience low fertility. I'll be honest, I did a testosterone test X amount of years ago, and it came out low. I've always been an athlete. I've always done things. And to find out I had super low testosterone, it's like, okay, well, what do I do to fix it? You can diet, you can, or, you know, get the right diet in your system. You can take shots. Shots can cause cancer. Shots can cause side effects in your body. So, you know, when you're young, I knew somebody that had testosterone like 760. In fact, they talk about back in the day that most men had super high test. That's probably why they had so many kids back then. But maybe that's why they are lowering. They're putting things in food to lower the testosterone in men, so that we're not having as many children. Now, that's not in general, because we know there's certain ethnicities that have lots of children, and for some reason, there's other ethnicities that we're not having as many children for some reason. Also, with the low fertility, you have to look at things like vaccines. You know, I'm not just saying the C19 vaccine, but other vaccines we get. You know, what's in those vaccines that are harming our body or causing low T counts or, you know, affecting our heart, whatever. You know, we don't know what's in those vaccines, and we're probably never going to know.
It almost feels like, you know, look at the bigger picture. What else is going on? You know, what is the ultimate goal? A lot of these things, you know, after research, it always seems like there's something else that could be hidden, you know, maybe a different agenda. But Bigfoot Bud commented, take a look how McNuggets are made. Yep. Haven't ate them in 4 years at least.
I told him I could eat 20-piece McNuggets every day with sweet sour sauce. Oh, it was like a delicacy to me. And then I happened to watch how it's made or whatever it was, and they were showing this pink crap that had no chicken in it, and I was like, I'm done. No way.
Mm-hmm. And Gene, I agree. Gene said, I don't think there's real meat in any of those fast foods. Might be an exception, but I doubt it.
And click on Jeff's there, right below.
Yes.
Yeah, Jeff, I've heard that. Also, you have to know something about pineapple. Pineapple is a fruit that basically the moment you take a bite out of it, it's taking a bite out of you. It's dissolving you from the inside out. That's just the acidity in it, the type of acid that's in it. It's healthy, but it's also destructive. So,
Sharon says GMO foods are making children develop way ahead of time. Younger kids going into puberty. I definitely agree with that. As far as the appearance, things have changed. Although I was like 10 or under, and that was 30 years ago. I think I was a little early, at the time, but now it's just like, to me, it's just kind of like evolution, if you want to say, but not a natural way. You see the changes through the decades.
Living in a farming community, I'm like I'm probably 5'9.5", 175 pounds, and I'm tiny in this town. I mean, there's so many big men here, and I'm not talking just older guys. I'm talking young men that are just big. And, I'm not saying it's because they eat healthy, because they don't at all. Fast food is a big thing around here. The fast food lines are always, because it's convenient. I think it's us that decide we're going to eat all their food and they're eating all the fast food. I don't know, but that's what I notice. And, we look at, like, I was looking at pictures of me back in high school years, a couple weeks ago, and seeing what we looked like back then. And then you see what these kids in high school look like now, and they look like adults. Mm-hmm. They're built like adults. And, it's got to be what's in the food. In my opinion, I think that, the steroids you eat in your chicken, the steroids you're eating in your beef from the stuff you buy at the store is giving those chemicals to your body. And I'll die on that grave.
Here.
What we got here? Reproduction doctors tell you if you drink Mountain Dew to stop. And Mountain Dew is probably the number one drink here in where we live.
Yeah,
it goes out by the shopping cart for sure. And I love Mountain Dew, but here, I'm going to plug this. This is Irish ginger ale. It's
Franny's.
Yeah, it's Franny's Irish ginger ale. It has nothing but vitamins in it, no sugar. It has a lot of caffeine, and green tea. But if you want to drink something, if you like ginger ale, I'm plugging this for them. They don't know, but I highly suggest drinking it. It doesn't have sugar, but it cures my sugar fix. So,
Justin said, "Gotta have my bacon, but I won't buy anything from Smithfield." And it's been a couple of years. I can't remember what that was, but I remember they were in the news for something. I can't remember what that was, but let's see.
Absolutely, Misty. Absolutely. They can afford the lawsuits because we can't afford to sue them.
What did she say?
It's not just, Misty says it's not just lab rats. We are lab rats. And it's also population control and helping Big Pharma because of the sicknesses. It's a win-win for them all the way around. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't have said it better myself. Misty, that's 100% correct.
And Moggs right here.
Yep.
Big food equals bad health equals Big Pharma.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny that we all think about, growing up when we were young, I always thought that was hippies. Hippies lived like that. They eat all the natural stuff and blah, blah, blah. We can get whatever we want here at the McDonald's. But as you get older and you start worrying about your health more, you start realizing that, what? Maybe those people were absolutely correct in doing the right thing, which is what our ancestors did,
I'm going to cover another topic on, it's reproductive related. It's the last topic I have to cover. But so for the overall big picture on depopulation, some say heavy alcohol use affects fertility rates, but smoking is what I'm going to cover. So tobacco in general, it seems to be a lower rate on the, what's that called? The like e-cigarettes and stuff. It seems to be a lower rate than the traditional cigarettes Let's see, what is it? Like chew or whatever. What's that called?
Dip.
That kind of stuff has a lower rate also than traditional cigarettes. But they contain chemicals such as nicotine, cyanide, and carbon monoxide, and that will cause a loss in the rate of eggs. Okay, so that's one of the issues. It does affect men and women separately, but they both, through the readings I did, it's you're half, pretty much the rate is half of fertility for smokers compared to non-smokers. But for male smokers, it can decrease the sperm quality with lower counts and the sperm's ability to move. It also creates abnormally shaped sperm. And so that limits your, ability to fertilize the eggs. And for women, it matters on how much you smoke, but anyhow, it can cause miscarriages, birth defects, and let's see,
And cancer,
obviously, but also more likely to have a baby with Down syndrome. Ectopic pregnancies and preterm labor are all could be side effects of smoking. So there are so many ways that it can affect birth or children, babies and birth defects and long-term, chronic diseases even of the babies. So that to me affects the population and can be a part of depopulation.
Well, let's look at, there was a time in the 60s and 70s where you saw football players on the sideline smoking cigarettes during a game because, it was pushed. It was pressed to give you more energy because of the things in the cigarettes. But I also think through time, it got to be less about tobacco and more about what they put in with the tobacco.
Oh yeah, the chemicals and the
cyanide,
nicotine.
Right.
What makes it addictive, and they say that your chances of fertility increase once you've stopped smoking. But if the male or female are smoking, it does lead to infertility issues. And even if the woman doesn't smoke, secondhand smoke can play a part in infertility. But like I said, they say that it can increase from the time that you stop smoking. Your chances of fertility can improve. But I used to smoke, so I know what that's like to be addicted to cigarettes. But I quit many years ago, and
click on Buds.
Oh,
Buds hardcore.
I used to put Jack Daniels in them.
Sounds like something I would have done.
Yeah. So like, I didn't realize. I knew as a smoker there were so many reasons why I quit, but it always made me feel guilty. Like the things that they're like, well, smoking's so bad for you for this, and this. I never would have realized back then that it would have caused infertility. But now researching this, I finally realized, and it's just bad all the way around, really.
So anyway, I've got a list of things I wrote down on things you kind of need to keep an eye on that you use probably every day that don't realize maybe they are bad for you. Bad for getting in your skin if you're not taking precautions, wearing gloves, or things like that. But obviously, household products. I talked about Dawn dish soap. I use Dawn dish soap to make a natural weed killer. Dawn dish soap, vinegar, and salt, and it kills weeds. So I'm thinking to myself, we obviously put vinegar in our bodies. We have vinegar in our food. We obviously have salt in our food. So what can kill weeds that Dawn dish soap has in it? They say that the Dawn dish soap is only for soaking up the, I know they're dehydrating the weeds is what but the Dawn dish soap is for it to stick, these chemicals to stick to the weed you're trying to kill. Again, read what's in Dawn dish soap and you'll find that is not something you should be using with your bare hands. Other things are sunscreen. I put a post on Facebook the other day about sunscreen, and I also, this was a while ago I put that, but I know more people that have used sunscreen and gotten skin cancer more than I know people that have gotten skin cancer by not using sunscreen. So look at your sunscreen, look at the chemicals in it. There are natural things to use as sunscreen. And yes, Gene, apple cider vinegar is good for you. We used to take shots of it until she got sick one night on it. And
I don't like apple cider vinegar.
I'm done. So,
and that told me because my body told me.
Yeah. Deodorants. We know that a lot of deodorants, unless you look for the right kind, contain aluminum. Aluminum does not need to be near your body. I worked tool and die for over 20 some years. My last probably 6 years of it were dealing with almost nothing but aluminum, and never thought about it being bad, but I didn't, never wore a mask. I would come home, my sinuses would be black. What you're coughing out of your, breathing out of your nose. But now I know it's bad. Again, that's what they put in our cloud stuff that they're doing. Fertilizers, anything you put in your yard, it's bad for you. It's bad for your animal. If you go barefoot in your yard, again, your skin being the biggest organ, you're soaking that into your skin. So that can create cancer problems in the long run. Possible. I'm not saying everybody. Our bodies are all different. I'll stop there and read the question. Look how they attack raw milk. Absolutely. Who was the gentleman up in Pennsylvania?
It wasn't Smith.
No, the Amish gentleman that just got all of his sued, got all of his cattle taken away, all of his machinery. They killed all his cows, and all he was doing was selling milk, raw milk, to his community. And the FDA and the USDA came and shut him down. It's because they can't. Yeah, he's Amish.
I've never had raw milk.
What is his? I've had raw milk. I liked it. What's his name? Amos Miller.
There you go.
Amos Miller, and you can look that up and read his story. It's very interesting.
And speaking of that, if you have not watched the movie Farmageddon.
Oh.
Farmageddon. It's similar to that situation. It's sad, but it's very eye-opening because you don't realize until you do how much.
Yeah, how much the government has to do with what you're growing and what you're doing.
I think of a different word.
Jeff, if you're in here, how much do you have to deal with regulations from the government? I'm just curious with your cattle farm, your dairy farm, I should say, because I'm really curious about that.
And then you were talking about fertilizers, and I think Misty made a comment. But you said fertilizers and causing cancers. Obviously, it depends on what chemicals are in that.
Yes. We don't use fertilizer in our grass. I mean, it's all basically new grass. Yes, it falls from the sky onto our grass, but our object is to keep being able to eat out of our yard. That's why she soaks everything that we pull from our yard. Because you have to worry about your garden too, because it rains on your garden. So soak your food the best you can before you eat it and clean it. And hopefully it's a little bit healthier for you, keep you from getting those cancers that nobody knows why we're getting. Bottled water is another one. Plastics. One of the problems with low fertility in men is the microplastics they're finding in the human body. Just because you're drinking a bottle, you think it's healthy, says spring water, and it's in a plastic bottle, you're still taking in poison. You got to make sure you're drinking out of the right style of plastic, I guess, because we have some purifiers that are rated that it cleans everything out of everything. So, we're hoping that's true for the price you pay. But, got to keep track of that water. It's still healthier than drinking out of your tap. I know, well, never mind. I can't tell you that because you figure out where we live.
Here.
They are saying the plastic is why so many are having heart trouble and strokes. Agreed. It's those BPA or the BPAs. Those plastics are building up in your arteries and whatever, and they're causing, clogs. And it's funny because you wouldn't think that that's that big a deal, but there is so much plastic in everything that's what happens. And William, that's a great glass bottle. Sure.
Yeah, that's a good
That's
point.
the way to go. I agree. I'm sure there's still something wrong with William, but I guarantee you it's 100% or 99% better than drinking out of plastic.
Right.
So let's go. We talked about clothing. Think to yourself, why don't they make more hemp clothing? I know, hemp clothing was another hippie thing, but hemp is so much more available, easier to grow. There's nothing bad about it. It's probably not as super comfortable as cotton, cotton t-shirts, but cotton is obviously naturally grown as well. It's the things they put in to make it, this is white, but the colored stuff, the stuff to make certain types of your cotton a little bit different, cotton plus polyester or whatever. So, again, clothing is another.
I feel like it's a matter of how important is that to you? Are you looking for organic fabrics? Are you looking for natural dyes for your fabrics? Because it does exist. It's not within the price point of most budgets, of the everyday American. So where do you stand? How important is it to you? It is how I feel about that.
And I want to stipulate that we're not telling you guys this is how you need to live. This is how anybody needs to live. Because if you live 100% to what we're talking about, you're going to spend a lot of money, because being natural or trying to stay natural, if you don't have the land to grow everything, it gets a little pricey. To buy the type of things that you need to do that are clear or clean, chemical free, it gets a little pricey in that area. Some other things that obviously affect our declining year-to-year percentage of births are Planned Parenthood. I know this is a touchy subject with a lot of people, but it's, when you eliminate people before they're born, you're obviously eliminating future adults that have future kids. So that's another thing. I won't delve into that too much. 5G towers. There's a lot of rumors going around that 5G towers affects us mentally and our body. It's basically like a microwave. So that could be having effects on our bodies as well. Gene says it's better to make your own bread than to buy it. The chemicals they put on grains before, during, and after is crazy. Gene, I saw a video of somebody taking a loaf of bread, and it didn't show what loaf of bread, what brand, but they literally squished it up. And by the end of the video, it had all kind of almost come back to normal. All they did was squish it. Now, my wife makes an amazing sourdough bread that has, 3 ingredients in it? Spectacular. And I suggest it to everybody. I've tried to get her to start making it to sell it, but then I realized it's a long process. Those big electrical lines cause cancer. Yeah, the big electrical lines, well, we're lucky we don't have them around us.
Misty, you're cracking me up. She's working, of course, and getting sidetracked. Sorry. We love you, Misty.
I know this is up your alley, Misty. And yes, click on Roberts or Williams. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't understand why a certain group of people sticks up for her and Planned Parenthood, because it was built to eliminate a certain race of people. She even admitted that. So I don't know, but William, that's absolutely right. Another thing we have to worry about, obviously, we dealt with the C19 disease and all the diseases that are popping up out of nowhere. We had the scare of swine flu, bird flu, mad cow disease. And I say that because it also wipes out the food population. One cow has mad cow, they will eliminate every cow there. One bird has bird flu, one chicken, they eliminate every chicken, which can cost you millions and millions of chicken, which drives prices up. So, it's just the fact that, again, don't eat a lot of that. Grow your own. It's safe that way for sure. Vaccines. Now that's something, maybe William knows what's in vaccines as a doctor, but I have no idea what's in vaccines.
That's a very broad topic. So many medications.
True. And he's an oncologist. Mm-hmm. So he's a little different than being a virologist or whatever. And again, foods that we've talked about, the additives in foods, the things that aren't good for your body. That's what she's discussed. Jean says there's a cell in your body that if the levels are where they should be, stops cancer. Guy developed a way to increase and the government. There you go. We talked about this on one show. Is there a cure for cancer? We're never going to know. And I know that Dr. Robinson knows, not knows, but he'll say there's not. We're not going to know. He's probably not going to know either. You can't cure something like cancer because you're eliminating big pharma from everything. Cancer is a big money maker. What did he? Okay.
No, we did not.
Did you see Dr. Williams says, did you see the latest report on thimerosal? That's my best pronunciation. In vaccines, it's a complicated topic, but I discuss it in my podcast. Okay. Again, I'm going to push his podcast. Check it out. You learn a lot, whether it's New Orleans music or it's a lot of, medical that a
lot of cancer.
Learn a lot from that. Definitely. Another big decline on our population is war. And, and I know that war is bad for the population. You look at what's going on in the Russia-Ukraine war right now, where Ukraine is grabbing 18 to 60-year-olds off the streets to fight. Now, I love my country and I would die for my country, but nobody's going to grab me off the street and tell me I have to fight. I'll do that on my own. There's a lot of 60-year-old people that I know, 50-year-old people that I know that couldn't walk 10 feet out of their house without falling down. Mm-hmm. So it's just what an easy way to get rid of people is the way I look at it. Let's go ahead and click on that. War is just a moneymaker for the people in power. Absolutely, Gene. Absolutely. People in power and their cronies. Plastics, we've talked about plastics. And one of the things I wanted to bring up is this subject itself could throw so many other subjects you can pick from. Secret societies, Bilderberg Group, where do I go? The WHO, and I call them a secret society. They're not, but they are. The World Economic Forum, all these different, these groups that are basically together to decide how you're going to live your life, how they're going to structure society for you to live your life. BF Bud says Dr. Wilhelm Reich was shut down by the government, jailed, and all literature confiscated and destroyed. That's usually what happens. We've heard about people that create engines that can you can put in your car and run on water, and they come up missing. They died mysteriously by whatever. We won't go into that. But I don't have much more. But I did want to make sure that everybody pay attention to what you're eating. If you're really concerned about it, pay attention to what you're eating. It's so important for your health. Cancer is a big thing. William knows that for sure. It affects so many people. And now with the vaccines and people dying of heart attacks and other diseases, it's a shame that we've gotten to this point. And you have to think to yourself, are we lab rats? And we are. You know, Big Pharma is one of the richest organizations in the world, started by I believe the Rockefellers, who were oil magnates. So you got to wonder, are these people out for our best interests? No. And I'm glad you guys could join us today for this. There's so much more we could go into. I could do a whole episode on the Georgia Guidestones and the meanings of what the words were, written on it. It's funny because they give me a positive interpretation and a negative interpretation. Right. You tell me the population needs to be a certain thing, and then you give me a positive to that. So anyway, one of the other things I wanted to touch on before we go is I researched as the government, whatever government it is, destroyed entire villages. There was a movie years ago. I can't remember what it was called. It was like Contagion. Anyway, the movie started off that they were in this African village, and the disease that they introduced to this African village, it might even been AIDS, got out of hand. So they just firebombed the whole thing and killed everybody. And there's been movies made about subjects like that. That movie, I can't remember, Containment, whatever. A horror movie, which you can take it or leave it, The Crazies, which was, again, a virus introduced and it got out of control. So I believe it can happen. I often say that movies imitate real life. We didn't talk about, the plague, all the things that wiped out mankind, most of mankind back then, the plague of London, the Black Death, bubonic, which we're still finding cases of bubonic plague. Smallpox eliminated a lot of people in our country. And of course, COVID-19. So this is a subject that we could probably talk about for hours and hours and hours. But neither of us have time to sit down and go through that. That's why we always suggest that you sit down. If you're interested in it, just look up a few things. Type some questions in your Grok or your Meta, whatever they are, AI, and just find out some answers. Because to look for things on the internet, if you use the internet, you have to remember that they put everything that you're looking for as far back as you want, as they can. So it's going to take you probably 50 pages to actually find the truth. The truth's there, but it's very well hidden from you because they want you to know what they want you to know. Mm-hmm. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Do you have anything else?
Thank you.
And does anybody have any questions? Any more questions?
And thank you to the moderators.
Thanks, mods. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Everybody, again, we thank you for being here. Sorry we missed 2 weeks. I know next week we have Saturday night is the Tennessee Wildman Conference in McMinnville, Tennessee. We'll be seeing a lot of our friends there. We look forward to it. We went last year. It was a great time. That's how we got involved with everybody here, with Yuns. That's my new Tennessee word, with Yuns. And hopefully some of you people can make it. And it'd be great if all of you can make it. But I realize that's impossible for some of you. So we'll be doing that. And maybe Sunday we'll talk about, we'll have a topic, but we'll also talk about the conference a little bit. Yeah. I think Kumbo is going to be there. Phyllis and John are supposed to be there. Roger, Greg, Martin Groves, if he's healthy enough. Daryl Denton, who are the husband and wife.
Misty's going to be there.
Yay, Misty's going to be there. All right, cool. What's the husband and wife? Why can't I remember their name?
Oh, hold on. I think it's just one of them there this time.
Yeah, I think just he's going to be there. Anyway.
Joe?
I can't remember. Anyways, they're going to be there. So it should be a good time. Lots of vendors. And we'll give you all a report. And
yeah. So next Sunday we'll be back.
A good topic. And again, I'm going to say this. Can you put our email again in there?
Yeah.
If anybody has any ideas of what they want a topic to be, if something they want us to research, we would love to research it and talk about it. There are millions of things to talk about. Some of them are really, when I watch some of these podcasts, I tell her,
Barbie's gonna be there.
all right, I get depressed because I want to do a podcast like the Y-Files. If you've never watched the Y-Files, it's spectacular. He hits, they've done Bigfoot, they've done, the Cosmos, he's done everything, AJ and Hecklefish. But it's also like 5 other people. So they have producers and everything's going on like that. So it's really tough. So she's like, remember, it's just us. And we're, part-time doing this. But we thank you all for being here. It really, really means a lot. We hope you learned something. We hope you, find it interesting enough that you want to research some of it yourself and wonder why our numbers are starting to dwindle. And what are they doing? Why are they doing it? So we thank you. And until next Sunday.
Yes.
We love you all.
Yep. Love you guys. Thank you for the company. It was a great chat tonight.
Thank you. And we'll see you next Sunday at 5:00.
Yeah. Have a nice week.
Have a great evening.